Hey y'all, remember how in American Psycho, Patrick Bateman rebukes one of his colleagues by saying, "Hey, cool it with the anti-Semitism." And that line itself, "Cool it with the anti-Semitism," kind of became this meme amongst anti-Semites mostly, just because it was so obviously a virtue signaling moment. Patrick Bateman, who's completely amoral, completely immoral, right? A killer, serial killer, who cheats on his girlfriend and does all manner of evil things. But in this one scene, he's projecting this stance of being hyper moralistic. Um, and he goes into this empty monologue about how we first we need to ensure equality between the sexes, and then we need to blah, 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 and it's obvious that he doesn't mean it, and it's absolutely hollow words, and he's just saying what he's expected to say. Well, I wonder about if somebody were to say to one of the neoliberal types, or to a neoliberal hanger-on like Colin Liddell, who absolutely collectively, all of these people, Colin included, seem to be in the mood to blame Russia for everything that's bad in the West, including the things that they think are, that other people think are good, but they say they're really bad because it's just a Russian plant, a Russian asset. Colin, of course, said that about the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski said that he was a probable Russian plant or Russian asset, and I don't know. I mean, I go back and look at Colin's site every now and then just to see what he's up to now, and there's just been this steady stream of, Russia's behind everything. Russia was the force behind the alt right. Ultimately, it was what pushed and promoted the alt right. It was what pushed and promoted. It's what's behind QAnon, and the various aspects of thought that get called conspiracy theory. That all of these come from Russia. Russia is seeding all of these ideas into our minds in order to undermine our the neocons and the neoliberals would say to undermine our democracy. They would use democracy, but I don't know what the neoliberal types like Richard Spencer and Colin Liddell, with the neoliberal kind of hangers-on like those two guys, former dissident right or alt-right people, and I know that there are others of their ilk. I don't know what they would say. They wouldn't use the word democracy, but they would say something like, yeah, they're the effort is being made, and Russia is behind it all. Russia is the root of all this evil. So essentially, the same kind of thing that the anti-Semites see with Jews, or talk about with Jews being behind every culturally corrosive movement, and fomenting these negative sorts of trends, in order to undermine the West, which is that's pretty much standard rhetoric amongst anti-Semites. And I'm not saying that evaluatively here. I'm not saying they're wrong or they're right. I'm just saying that's pretty standard amongst the anti-Semites. But these Russophobe types, if I may call them that, I think there needs to be more attention given to the manner in which they are operating. And I think one should pay more attention to how many parallels there are between the anti-Semites and the Russophobes, with the only difference being who's the big bugaboo, who's the one who's really the malevolent force, who's really behind all of the evil trends. And it's like that they talk about thinking that conspiracy theorists are terrible, and well, they used to just say, well, they're they're silly and stuff, but they're not, they're just marginal people, not really to be taken seriously. That was the rhetoric about so-called conspiracy theorists like 10 or 15 years ago. But in the last 5 years or so, the take on conspiracy theorists is that they are dangerous. Conspiracy theorists are pushing these false and dangerous notions about extreme corruption and evil within our media and our government and the military industrial complex, and they must be resisted, and they must be labeled disinfo and kicked off of social media. And there's this big push to expunge all of these ideas. But the irony there with that is, it seems that these sorts of people who talk about disinformation a lot, who say the dissident right and so-called conspiracy theorists are agents of disinformation, they seem to have in common the perspective that it's Russia who is really the head of the snake. Russia, who is the nefarious force that has started all of these trends, in an effort to undermine the. I guess they would say. I mean, of course, the neocons and neoliberals would say to undermine the West's, which is morally superior because we're not sexist and homophobic like other places in the world. But I don't know what the Spencers and the Liddells would say. What their notion is about the West. Maybe they would say that the West is virtuous, in its traditions. But I don't know. They just seem to be so down on everything. They're so down on everything that's being put forth as ideas by people who are resisting the mainstream propaganda. So I don't really know what it is they would be arguing for, but it does seem that what they're arguing ultimately against, or what they're positing as this nefarious force behind everything, is Russia. And so let's draw attention to that more. I think this is definitely, that they want to call people like me and maybe people like you conspiracy theorists. I mean, depending on where you stand, if you're somebody who thinks around this, who believes sort of the same kinds of things that I believe, who shares the general perspective on the state of the West today, and the various things that are going on in the West today. It's time for us to draw attention to the Russophobia of these people, and just like you can be somebody who says things about Jewish power without being someone who who attacks all Jews. You can be somebody who's Russophobic without necessarily thinking that all Russians are bad, but still sort of promoting this idea that the Russian power structure is evil, and has I mean, it's like that they have this this grip on so much of the West, and they promote so much in the West and foment all these things, in the West that are nefarious and that wind up creating distrust of the leaders, which we should trust our leaders. That's what they say. I mean, that's kind of what the Liddells and the Richard Spencers are saying now. I mean, I guess that's what they're saying. We should trust our leaders, and we should trust that the operation, the push to surround Russia, to expand NATO ever eastward towards the borders of Russia. We should just trust that is a good thing, because our leaders are good, and they have our best interests at heart. I mean, I don't know what I'd love to hear it from them, but there's not going to be a debate that's going to take place. So I don't know what they would say. I imagine they would, or Colin anyway, would maliciously redirect the question, would maliciously reframe the question that was being put to him by just saying you're just another crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, and you're just a conspiratard, and all these other terms that they like to use. But their conspiracy, their conspiratardacy, we could say, is this intense, immense Russophobia, which just which reflects the power structure, because that is what everybody that it's what the media is telling us today. It's what the respected politicians are telling us today. It's what it's what we're supposed to believe concerning Russia. And it is interesting that this Russophobia has been around for a while, and I think in a sense it is nothing new. It's just the way that it's being endlessly stoked these days is I find quite alarming. I find it again something that reasonable people should be able to look at and say, wait a minute, this isn't quite right. There's something going on here. You guys seem a little monomaniacal when it comes to Russia. Every trend, again, if you follow Liddell's new website, not all of his articles, but most, I would say a good 60% of what he writes is just putting people down who are dissident right affiliated, and saying that they're Russian shills. I mean, I go over to his site and see for yourself. I won't give it to you. I'm not going to recommend it here. I don't want to give him any traffic. But if you're curious enough, you can find it on your own. But Colin's a small, I don't think terribly influential figure right now. Neither am I. So I'm not. It's not that I'm saying, like comparing myself to him and saying I'm so much more, important of a character on the scene these days. But I do think that he speaks for a certain type of dissident thinker who has just turned against dissident thought, who just believes that everything that was being promoted by the dissident right or the alt-right since its inception, since it first came on the scene, who seems to now just say, oh well, that's all just been Russian disinformation. So I would just say, we should cool it with the Russophobia, and see how they respond to that. That's just those are just my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Talk to y'all soon.